Jack had been my best friend for as long as I could remember. About 3 years ago, he went through a rough divorce that hit him harder than any of us expected. It wasn't just the separation that got to him, it was how fast everything spiraled afterward. His ex-wife moved on quickly, and Jack buried himself in work. I don't mean the typical NTO5. He practically lived in his office. Calls would go unanswered, texts left on read, and for months it felt like he was completely unreachable. Eventually, Sarah and I decided we couldn't let him slip away like that. Christmas had always been a special time for us, so we made it a tradition to bring Jack over. It started small, just dinner, a drink, a conversation, but Sarah's idea to have him dress as Santa was what brought him back to life. He would show up in the ridiculous red suit, complete with a fake white beard, and perform goofy little skits for the kids at our holiday party. I never tell him this to his face, but I think he liked it more than the kids did. For a day or two, he got to forget everything and just be part of our family. The year Christmas was approaching, and everything seemed to be on track. It was the day before Christmas Eve. When I got home from work, the cold air outside had been biting, and I stomped the snow off my boots. As I stepped into the house, the living room smelled faintly of cinnamon and pine. Sarah must have lit one of those holiday candles she loved. I hung up my coat and noticed her sitting on the couch, phone in hand, speaking in a tone I couldn't quite place. She wasn't laughing or chatting like she usually did. It sounded more mumbled, maybe distracted. As soon as she saw me, she quickly ended the call. "Who was that?" I asked, more curious than anything. "Chloe," she said, casually tucking her phone away. "We're planning to go shopping today." I didn't think much of it at first. Chloe was Sarah's closest friend, and those two could spend hours hopping from store to store before I could even take off my shoes. Sarah suddenly asked, "Hey, is Jack coming tomorrow?" I paused. "How do you know this?" She laughed and waved me off. "Oh, come on, Jack's always here around Christmas." Call it intuition. I shrugged. She wasn't wrong. Jack had been showing up like clockwork these past few years. To be honest, I wasn't the best at keeping track of dates or planning things out. If Sarah said it was Jack's time, I figured she was probably right. Sarah kissed me on the cheek, grabbed her coat, and said she was heading out. "Don't wait up," she added with a grin as the door clicked shut. About an hour later, my phone rang. It was Jack. "Hey man," he said, his voice as upbeat as ever. "Got that banana lotto ready for me?" I chuckled. "That was Jack for you every Christmas." He demanded the same thing, a banana latte with extra syrup, a drink no sane person over the age of 15 would admit to liking. "Wait," I said, joking back. "You're here already?" "Nah," he replied with a laugh. "Just wanted to mess with you. I'll be there tomorrow though. Don't screw up my latte." Yeah, I muttered, shaking my head. As I hung up, I couldn't help but think about Sarah's comment earlier, how she knew Jack would be here tomorrow. I didn't think much of it, but still it was strange how certain she'd been that evening. Sarah came home carrying more shopping bags than usual. She practically burst through the door with a grin plastered across her face. "You have to see these deals," she said excitedly, pulling out clothes and holding them up like trophies. "Look at this coat and you won't believe the price." "Check the receipt." I glanced at the receipt she thrust into my hand, nodding along as she rattled off details about her bargains. Sarah always loved shopping, and she had a knack for finding the best prices. Then, just as I was about to collapse on the couch, she said, "Oh, I left my phone in the car. Can you grab it for me?" I sighed, but I didn't mind. It was freezing out, but I grabbed my coat again and headed to the driveway. The car was locked, so I dug into her seat to find the phone. Sure enough, it was sitting right there, but as I picked it up, a crumpled receipt underneath it caught my eye. Out of curiosity, I pulled it out and glanced at the date. "Today, the order to banana Lillis." I frowned. See, for a moment, Jack's drink, no doubt about it, but it didn't make sense. Chloe drank nothing but black coffee, and she made a point of telling everyone about it. She thought any other drink was a waste of time and money, something for pseudo-hipsters, as she put it. I brought Sarah her phone and casually mentioned the receipt. "Hey, did Jack get here early or something? I found this in the car." "Banana lies." She blinked at me like I had three heads, then burst out laughing. "You're kidding, right?" Chloe finally gave in. I convinced her to try something besides black coffee. She even texted me after saying the banana latte wasn't so bad after all. Sarah pulled up her phone and showed me the message. Sure enough, there it was, Chloe admitting defeat over coffee. "Why split the bill then?" I asked, though I felt a little ridiculous even saying it out loud. Sarah sighed. "Does it matter? Sometimes people just pay separately. It's not a big deal." She wasn't wrong, and the whole thing felt petty. I shook my head. "Never mind, it's fine." Sarah smiled, brushing off the moment. "Good, don't forget Jack's coming tomorrow. We've got a lot to do together. It's going to be great." The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Sarah moving around the bedroom. She was already up, dressed, and in a rush, slipping on her black dress while tossing various items into her handbag she'd always been quick about her mornings, but today it felt more frantic than usual. I Saturday up rubbing the sleep from my eyes. What's going on? I asked, my voice still hoarse from sleep. Sarah didn't stop for a moment as she answered. The entire department got called in for an emergency meeting. Apparently the boss thinks someone messed up the annual report, so now everyone has to deal with it. She grabbed her shoes, slipped them on, and straightened up. I watched her closely as she checked her reflection one last time. Right before Christmas? That's insane. Welcome to my life. She sat flatly, zipping up her bag. I'll take the car. I won't be long. What about Jack? I asked. We've got to pick him up later. Don't worry, I'll be back before he gets in, she replied quickly. Already halfway out the door, she grabbed her coat and disappeared before I could say anything else. I glanced at the clock. It wasn't even 8 yet. About half an hour later, my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. It was Jack letting me know his train would be arriving at 4. I shot back a quick confirmation and then sent Sarah a message. Who's the idiot at work? She didn't reply. I figured the meeting must have been serious if she couldn't even glance at her phone. When Sarah came back just before lunchtime, she looked exhausted, her face tight with irritation. She walked in holding a thick folder, which he immediately dropped onto the dining table with a thud. I knew it, she muttered, flipping through the disheveled papers. Some idiot completely messed up the numbers. It's all wrong. I'll fix it later. She tossed the folder aside as if just looking at it made her angry. I leaned against the doorway, watching her shrug off her coat, and let out a heavy sigh. Jack called. He'll be at the station at 4. I told her. Sarah nodded and glanced at the clock. All right, go warm up the car. I'll change, and we'll head out. I grabbed my keys and stepped outside into the freezing air. The car started up with a hum, and as it warmed, I noticed a faint smell in the cabin, a lingering perfume or cologne I didn't recognize. I glanced around and my eye settled on a small air freshener clipped to the vent. It looked brand new. I sat there for a moment, frowning slightly, before Sarah joined me, sliding into the passenger seat. As I started driving, I asked, what's with the smell? Did you put something new in here? Oh, that, she said. Leaning back, one of my colleagues gave me that air freshener her husband wears, summer cologne, and she thought it smelled nice. Must have been lingering in the car. I nodded, spotting the freshener. Again, the explanation was simple enough, so I didn't dwell on it. At the station, Jack stood waiting on the platform with his suitcase and duffel bag. I got out to help him with his luggage in the cold air bit through my jacket. As I hoisted the bag into the trunk, I caught the faint smell again, that same cologne. It stuck with me for a second, but I pushed the thought away and greeted Jack with a firm handshake. Good to see you, I said, lowering the last of his things. Jack grinned. Good to be back, man. We climbed back into the car, and as soon as we started moving, Jack sniffed the air. Hey, I know this smell. That Sauvage, isn't it? Cologne. They make your fresheners that match it now. Pretty cool, huh? Sarah turned in her seat slightly and chinned. Yeah, my colleague gave me one. Her husband wears the same cologne, so she thought I'd like it. It's a popular fragrance. Jack chuckled. It should be. It's timeless. Can't go wrong with it. I kept driving, focusing on the road, while the two of them talked. It all added up, but the familiarity of the scent still lingered in my mind. I pushed it aside. No point in overthinking it. Back at the house, Sarah busied herself making coffee while Jack settled into the couch. He looked more relaxed than he had in months. It's good to be here, he said, stretching his legs. I've got to take care of a couple things tomorrow, though. I'll head to the cemetery and clean up Em's grave. After that, I'm all yours. Take your time, I said, setting a cup of coffee in front of him. We're not in any rush. The evening passed quietly. The